الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. عن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه أنه خرج يوما إلى مسجد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فوجد معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه قاعدا عند قبر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يبكي، فقال: ما يبكيك؟ قال: يبكيني شيء سمعته من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إن يسير الرياء شرك، وإن من عادى لله وليا فقد بارز الله بالمحاربة. إن الله يحب الأبرار الأتقياء الأخفياء الذين إذا غابوا لم يفتقدوا، وإذا حضروا لم يدعوا ولم يعرفوا. قلوبهم مصابيح الهدى، يخرجون من كل غبراء مظلمة، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. رواه ابن ماجه. Regarding our halaq of hadith or dars of hadith, in continuation of the book of Muntakhab Ahadith, from the chapter of Ikhlas al-Niyya, sincerity of intention, under the subchapter of the condemnation of Riya, showing off, hadith number 36. This hadith is from Ibn Majah, one of the Sahih Sitta, one of the 6 most authentic books of hadith. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, he narrates that one day he went to the Masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Masjid al-Nabawi, and there he found Sayyidina Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu sitting by the grave of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he was weeping. Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu asked him, "Why are you weeping? What is making you weep?" Sayyidina Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu, he responded that there is something I heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and that is making me weep. I heard Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, "Inna yasir al-riya shirk." Indeed, even a little bit of showing off is shirk, is a major sin. وَإِنَّ مَنْ عَادَى لِلَّهِ وَلِيًّا فَقَدْ بَارَزَ اللَّهَ بِالْمُحَارَبَةِ. And whosoever has enmity with a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and such a person has gone forth to wage war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْأَبْرَارَ الْأَتْقِيَاءَ الْأَخْفِيَاءَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves al-abrar, the righteous, al-atqiya, the God-fearing, that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a result of the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they refrain from sin and disobedience. Al-akhfiya, those that are hidden. الَّذِينَ إِذَا غَابُوا لَمْ يُفْتَقَدُوا. They are those when they're absent, they're not missed, they're not looked for, sought out. وَإِذَا حَضَرُوا لَمْ يُدْعَوْا وَلَمْ يُعْرَفُوا. And when they are present in some place, they're not called out or recognized. قُلُوبُهُمْ مَصَابِيحُ الْهُدَى. Their hearts are lamps or lanterns of guidance. يَخْرُجُونَ مِنْ كُلِّ غَبْرَاءَ مُظْلِمَةٍ. As a result of the lamp of guidance or light of guidance, they're taken out of these storms of darknesses. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. This hadith is in Ibn Majah. In continuation of the portion of this hadith which speaks about those who have enmity with the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَإِنَّ مَنْ عَادَى لِلَّهِ وَلِيًّا فَقَدْ بَارَزَ اللَّهَ بِالْمُحَارَبَةِ. Whosoever has enmity with a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then such a person has gone forth to wage war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We did go over some of the qualities of the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we also went over a portion of or at least one of the many reasons why someone would have enmity or hatred against the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has been in human nature that when anyone is told or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers, and they would tell their aqwam, they would tell their nations that what you are doing and what you're involved in is a major sin, it is the wrong path. Because that da'wah, the invitation of the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the invitation of the prophets and messengers was such an invitation that it went against human shahwa, against human desires. And also it went against the whispers of shaitan, the waswasa of the shaitan. So those who were the friends of shaitan, they would wage war, they would go against the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers. And they would go against anyone that followed the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers. And this is the human way or the human system, that as human beings we adopt a certain lifestyle. And as a result of adopting this lifestyle, we feel that this is the path, this is the right way. This has to do with also the effect of sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as a result of that disobedience, certain diseases become prevalent in the human heart. And it becomes very, very difficult to take out those diseases or to remove those marks. The very fitrah and nature of insan, the very nature of a human being, is that we are created from clay, and the nature of clay is that when you stamp something on clay or you leave a mark on clay and that clay becomes hard, then it becomes very difficult to remove that mark. You have to break the structure of clay to remove that mark. Similarly, when the love of a certain lifestyle, the love of sins and disobedience, that leaves a mark on the heart, and that love and that mark becomes solid, it takes place, and it becomes part of the human life, then it becomes very difficult to remove that, or even for someone to realize why it is wrong. They start to ask the question, what's wrong with what we're doing? This is our lifestyle, and if someone doesn't accept it, then they have this saying, our way or the highway. This is not a new statement. It's amazing how many of these statements have been mentioned in the Quran regarding the nations of the past. They used to tell the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the nations of the past would tell the prophets and messengers that were sent to them, follow our lifestyle, follow our way, or leave, we'll expel you, get out. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the ayat of the Quran, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِرُسُلِهِمْ لَنُخْرِجَنَّكُمْ مِنْ أَرْضِنَا أَوْ لَتَعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا. That when a certain point would come, the Anbiya alayhimus salam would give da'wah to their nations. They would invite their nation to the truth. Then the kuffar and disbelievers and even their leaders, they would get together and they would tell the Anbiya alayhimus salam, they would tell the prophets and messengers, and they would tell their followers, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and the kuffar and disbelievers say, these ayat or verses are from Surah Ibrahim. وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, and the kuffar and disbelievers say, or they used to say, they said to the Anbiya alayhimus salam, to the prophets and messengers, لَنُخْرِجَنَّكُمْ مِنْ أَرْضِنَا أَوْ لَتَعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا. We are going to force you out of our land. We're going to take you out. We're going to expel you. We're going to deport you. أَوْ لَتَعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا, or you follow our way. Either you adopt our lifestyle, you come to your senses and you become one of us. We're going to expel you, deport you, remove you. And they will become adamant on the statement. And they would make plans to attack the Anbiya alayhimus salam, to attack the prophets and messengers, and to attack the believers. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Ibrahim, in the same ayah, فَأَوْحَى إِلَيْهِمْ رَبُّهُمْ لَنُهْلِكَنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ. Then we would send wahi and revelation to the Anbiya alayhimus salam, to the prophets and messengers. لَنُهْلِكَنَّ الظَّالِمِينَ. Now, without a doubt, we're going to destroy the oppressors. So, this is not some new statement, our way or the highway. And in fact, this was the way that they used to force their ideas, force their beliefs, force their lifestyle, force their ideologies on everyone. And if someone opposed the lifestyle, they were considered an outcast. It's not something new that is something happening nowadays in the 21st century, in the year 2020. And for the past many, many years, anyone even spoke against the strange systems that were being adopted, where the kufr and disbelief went beyond limits, where we went to limits that even the animals were not going, where there's so much immorality, so much immodesty. And all of that immorality and immodesty became a part of society. And it became so deeply rooted in the society that if someone even spoke against it, they were considered an outcast, they were mocked at and made fun of. To such an extent that a very, very open and public display has been made and is being made of such acts, the clothing and the way the dress are and the words that are used, the displays that are being put, that someone with even very basic modesty can be easily disgusted by many of these things. There have been even some non-Muslim groups, aside from the Muslims, many Muslim groups have openly tried to condemn many of these evil acts. But even the conservative Christian groups, those that have some sense, some modesty, some sense of right and wrong, even they spoke out. They tried to say something, tried to have a voice that this is wrong. This should not be done. And they were made fun of, they were put down, that this is whatever was happening is just entertainment and it's part of the industry and you're living backwards and you need to catch up to the times. They were made fun of, put down. Some of the very conservative, even Christian groups were saying that we were just trying to have, in the middle of some games or some, either the football or the basketball, whatever other sport games were going on, such things would come in between. Within that show, certain things were displayed that were not supposed to be displayed in anywhere. And it exposed even the little children to very, very despicable and filthy things. Some conservative Christian groups spoke out and they were put down. So this is the nature of human beings, that once something becomes ingrained, like a mark that is put in clay, and that clay becomes hard and that mark becomes hard, it becomes very difficult to remove that mark. Similarly, this is how human nature is. Once society gets to a certain point where evil becomes the norm, immorality, immodesty, fahashi, that becomes the norm. Anyone tries to speak against it is put down. They're considered backwards. They're considered unaccepting. And that is why we have a global pandemic. Many of this filth has been accepted globally. We've become one society. Become one world like a spider web. كَمَثَلِ الْعَنْكَبُوتِ اتَّخَذَتْ بَيْتًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a beautiful example in the Quran, like a spider that weaves its web. The whole world has become one community. Some filth that becomes accepted in one part of the world, on a global scale, anyone with that type of mentality will stand up and start demanding their rights and demand that the society accept them. Such things that were openly condemned, openly considered immoral, immodest, things that were considered not even human. have become a norm and have become accepted. This is the way and the system of shaitan. This is the system and the footsteps of shaitan. And anyone who tries to speak up against it, they're considered wrong. This is also told to us amongst the signs of the Day of Judgment, that such evil things will become prevalent. تشرب الخمر, wine will be drunk openly. ظهر القينات والمعازف, the musical instruments and dancing women will become common. كان زعيم القوم أرذلهم مساد القبيلة فاسقهم. The one who will be responsible in charge of a nation will be the worst amongst them. The leaders of the people will be the worst and most despicable and immoral and immodest people. So this is the reality of the world that we live in. وَأُكْرِمَ الرَّجُلُ مَخَافَةَ شَرِّهِ. A man will be honored and respected for fear of the evil they'll be able to commit. It's mentioned in a lengthy hadith with 15 signs that will come. And as many of these are the signs of Qiyamah, and they become prevalent in a society. So أُكْرِمَ الرَّجُلُ مَخَافَةَ شَرِّهِ. People will be respected for the fear of the evil they'll be able to commit. So that becomes a norm of society. This what becomes, anyone tries to speak against it, it's considered wrong. And it's not something new. So the nations of the past, in the beginning of time, when the Anbiya alayhimus salam, they went to their nation and told their nation, what you're doing is wrong. They used to make fun of their prophets. إِنَّهُمْ أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ. They told Lut alayhi salam, the Nabi that was sent to Qawm Sadum, a nation that was involved in extreme filth, immorality and immodest acts. They were making fun of the Nabi that was sent to them, Sayyidina Lut alayhi salam. They told him, إِنَّهُمْ أُنَاسٌ يَتَطَهَّرُونَ. You and your family, you think you're so pure. They used to call the prophets many, many strange names, make fun of them. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send His adhab and His punishment on those nations. And they used to go to the prophets and messengers and tell them that all these conditions that are happening to us is because of you. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. In Surah Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example of a nation, Qawmi Antaqiya, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 3 prophets. And when the conditions started, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent conditions to humble the nation. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّن قَبْلِكَ فَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْبَأْسَاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَضَرَّعُونَ. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send prophets and messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send conditions to humble the nation, hardships and difficulties, that the people may become humble. فلولا إذ جاءهم بأسنا تضرعوا ولكن قست قلوبهم وزين لهم الشيطان ما كانوا يعملون. But why wasn't it that they didn't become humble? Rather, their hearts became more hardened, and shaitan beautified their acts for them. This was a nation that came after Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, during the time of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, right before the coming of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The Anbiya alayhi salam, 3 prophets were sent to Qawmi Antaqiya. And when the conditions started, hardship upon hardship, the nation went and started accusing the prophets, making fun of them, and accusing them that these hardships are because of you. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. They told them that these conditions, they told the prophets and messengers that all these hardships that are happening is because of you. If you don't desist, if you don't stop your da'wah, لنرجمنكم, we're going to stone you to death. وَلَيَمَسَّنَّكُم مِّنَّا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. You're going to face a very terrible punishment from our side. And the Anbiya alayhimus salam, the prophets and messengers responded, قالوا طائركم معكم وإن ذكرتم فأنتم قوم مسرفون. These conditions are because of your own actions. We're just warning you, we're giving you the message. But you people have chosen to go beyond the limits. And it's not one nation or two nations. How many nations? And even now, same conditions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, أَتَوَاصَوْا بِهِ بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ طَاغُونَ. It's as if these nations are giving one another message on what to say and how to respond to their prophets and messengers. Are they giving one another wasiyah? Are they giving one another advice? But they're a nation that have gone far beyond it, have followed the idol worship and their evil and their shirk and their sins, addicted to their evil ways. So that is why the enmity and the hatred would go into the hearts of the evil people, those who follow shaitan and obey shaitan. They have hatred against the righteous. Now we don't have prophets and messengers, but we do have the righteous, the ulama, the salihin, the scholars and the righteous. And there are many who oppose them, try to find fault with them, try and make fun of their lifestyle, try and make fun of them. Whenever the ulama and the scholars give advice, you'll find many people saying, what are these ulamas talking about? They're talking as if they're from hundreds of years ago. How will this sunnah affect anything? Many claim, many make very, very strange comments about the advice that is given by the ulama and the scholars. It's almost as if they have hatred in their hearts against the ulama, against the sulaha, against the righteous and the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has mentioned in this hadith. وَإِنَّ مَنْ عَادَى لِلَّهِ وَلِيًّا, and whosoever has enmity against the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because now, after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there will be no more prophets or messengers. But what will come? There will be awliyaullah, there will be friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who will warn the people and warn the nations and give da'wah to the people. There'll be ulama and scholars, and they'll give da'wah to their communities, to their nations. People will pick fights with them, enmity with them. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave this advice that, listen, whosoever has enmity against a friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَقَدْ بَارَزَ اللَّهَ بِالْمُحَارَبَةِ, and such a person is setting themselves up to wage war with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our day-to-day lives, whenever we have friends, and they're very close to us, family friends, friends that are so close, they're like our family. And someone picks a fight with our friends, tries to make fun of our friends, attacks our friends. What do? What is our reaction? Especially if we have the power to do something about it. What is our reaction? So the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, definitely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He looks after His friends, protects His friends. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave us the formula to become the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inna Allah yuhibbul abrar al-atqiya al-akhfiya. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He loves al-abrar, the righteous. Those that have genuine righteousness in their life, they're not showing off. As that was already mentioned in this hadith, just 2 sentences before. وَإِنَّ يَسِيرَ الرِّيَاء shirk. Even a little bit of showing off is shirk. But al-abrar, those that are righteous, have genuine righteousness in their life. There's a world of difference between genuine righteousness and forced righteousness. Those who are genuine righteous, their righteousness is seen in a very different way. Because their system of righteousness is part of their life. It's very natural. It's not forced. And for those who try to force righteousness, that's a different story. It's like the example of an expert in the field and someone who's trying to be an expert. Any field you take. Those who are experts in their field, they make everything look so natural. Sometimes you see the expert chef and the way they're cutting the onions and the tomatoes and making the different dishes and the way they're cooking, it looks so natural. They make it look so easy, so fluid. You take someone who's trying to look like an expert, you can see how fake that person looks. So it's very difficult, almost impossible to fake expertise. Those who are an expert in a field. Similarly, righteousness. The friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're so accustomed to doing righteous deeds. Aside from just the fara'id and the sunan, they also have the nawafil in their life. They have beautiful akhlaq in their life. Their ibadah looks so natural. When you see them pray the salah, you don't see any part forced. So natural, so smooth. They make it look so easy. You see them recite the Quran, the tilawat of the Quran, so beautiful, so easy. They make it look so easy. But then you have the person who's trying to show off. And you can easily tell the world of difference. So al-abrar, the righteous, those that the righteousness is part of their life. It's natural. And it's not that they're righteous only in front of people. Righteousness is part of their life. Al-atqiya, those that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is both when they're alone, no one is there, and also in gatherings and in groups. There are many who in front of people, they show that they're very pious, they're very righteous. But when they're alone, they commit many sins and disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, they follow shaitan and they follow the footsteps of shaitan. They become openly affected by shaitan. But taqwa, the nature of real taqwa, is that even in loneliness, a person is shedding tears from the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in public, no one can even tell that this person is righteous. So simple, very simple life. They don't try to force their ibadah that someone will find out. A real muttaqi is always afraid that maybe if someone finds out about my righteous deed, my connection and relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may be affected and that righteous deed may not be accepted. This is the genuine fear in the heart of every friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why you'll find that the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in public, you will not find them doing too many good deeds. In fact, the general public may be very unaware of the righteous deeds that a person may be performing in secret. There are many that later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes certain conditions where the righteous deeds become exposed to the people. That how genuine their taqwa was, how much they used to shed tears when the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how they used to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept their deeds. As human beings, we know the weakness in our own a'mal. That is something that should make every person afraid that, oh Allah, I perform these good deeds. But there's so many mistakes I make in them. If nothing else, my khushu' is not there, my concentration is not there. I'm not genuinely devoted from the beginning to the end. And how many other mistakes happen in my ibadah? Oh Allah, you accept it. Because we don't know. On the day of judgment, when we stand in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what will be our condition on that day? When we have to give reckoning for every single amal. Now, this was your salah, this was your zakah, this was your sadaqah, this was your dhikr, this was your dua. When the hisab starts, the account starts, you did this amal and this amal and this amal, what will be our condition? That's why one of the ad'iyah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, one of his supplications, Allahumma hasibni hisaban yasira. That, oh Allah, when you put me to account, make my account easy. This is the dua that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he taught and he instructed al-Mu'mineen Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu anha also to recite. It should be recited after every salah. It should be recited in our general supplications and in dua. Allahumma hasibni hisaban yasira. Oh Allah, when you put me to account, make my account easy. Because we don't know what amal Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold us. You did this deed. Why did you? For who did you do it? What was your intention behind doing this? We don't know what favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we were ungrateful for that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us to account. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us very, very clearly in the Quran, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Then without a shadow of doubt, definitely we will question you about every single favor. On that day, لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. We'll test you and we'll question you on that day about every favor. And this is the last ayah of Al-Hakum Al-Takathur. In the next surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَا عَصْرٍ, and I swear by Al-Asr, by time. إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. But definitely mankind is in loss. When that question will come on the day of judgment, what will be our reaction? What will we be able to say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, I gave you this favor and this favor and this favor. How many favors I gave you? What did you pay for? Were you ever grateful for these favors? Once that account will start, very difficult account. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Except for those who believe and do righteous deeds and encourage and advise, patience and advise to the truth, guide to the truth. So we don't know what condition we'll be in. So that is what is genuine taqwa, that fear deep down inside. Now what amal, what righteous deed is there that I've performed that if people find out about it, maybe my intention may become to show off or to tell someone about it. When this righteous deed was supposed to be between me and Allah. And then deep down inside that fear that maybe it wasn't accepted. That, oh Allah, just accept my amal from me. I'm a weak person. And that dua, Allahumma hasibni hisaban yasira, that, oh Allah, when you put me to account, make it easy. That is why the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, akhfiya, they're hidden. They're not trying to become famous. They don't want anyone to know. They don't want anyone to know about their righteous deeds. They don't want anyone to know about their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they don't know. They say, what is my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I don't know. What condition, what position I'm in. How close I am to the fire of Jahannam, I don't know. It's one of the poets, he was kind of a very, very powerful poem. He said, oh Allah, I know that I don't deserve to even ask you for Jannah. I know how evil I am. But at least, oh Allah, I request that you save me from Jahannam. What a dua. Oh Allah, I don't know. I know I am not, I know how sinful. I can't ask you for Jannah. I know how sinful I am. At least I can ask you, oh Allah, save me from Jahannam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding and give all of us the tawfiq to practice His deen. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغِ.